I always think about jazz as a genre which allows you to make mistakes. If you look at almost every genre of music, especially pop music, it is it follows a very monotonous flow. It has a very set standard of what people expect to hear in a typical pop song. But with jazz, I feel like you can just break free and do whatever you want once you've mastered it, of course. Once you've mastered the ability of just um, incorporating things, incorporating notes, incorporating various tonalities and semiotics to make something sound so beautiful yet so imperfect. When I look back on all of the performances that I've done over the past 1 year, I always think about how different every version is going to be. It can be as simple as a key change. It can be as simple as incorporating chromatic notes, scatting. But I always think about how different can I make this standard song, this jazz standard, into something beautiful, into something melodious, and how I can incorporate various tonalities and semiotics which have been done so masterfully by other singers like Ella, like um like Ella Fitzgerald, like Sarah Vaughan, and how can I make that something of my own and present it to an audience which will understand what I'm trying to do, and will not just understand and appreciate, but also for someone who's like new to jazz, they can see how melodic and yet how imperfect a song can be, and yet it can sound so beautiful.
Little shaky. Come on, we can do better. How's everybody feeling? All right. I've titled this set "A Celebration of Jazz, Blues, and Everything in Between." So you're gonna hear some old, something new, and sit back, relax, and enjoy your evening. He's a fool, and don't I know it? But a fool can have his charm. I'm in love, and don't I show it? Like a babe in arms. Love's the same old sad sensation lately. I've not slept all day. True story. Since this half-wise imitation put me on the plane. I'm wild again, big out again, a simpering, whimpering child again, bewitched, bothered and bewildered. know this tune. This one's by a famous artist by Billie Eilish. Don't be that way. All of our advice today. I just wish you could feel what you say. Show, never tell, but I know you too well. I got a move that you wish you could tell. Teardrops could be bottles that be swimming full by models. So the tide is what makes it. Was a promise, would you break it if you're honest? Tell the mirror what you know she's done before. I don't wanna be you anymore. It's getting cold, soon the feeling's getting cold. There's nothing made from a broken soul. Hurt, I can't shake. We made every mistake. Only you know the way that I play. Could be bottles that be swimming through by models. All the time is what makes it. Let's go would you break it if you're honest? But you know I don't wanna be you. I don't wanna be you anymore. That sounds good, right?
According to you, what makes jazz and blues in New York City so special?
Synergy.
That's Can you tell me more?
Yes. Every jazz in New York City is a very communal activity. It's surrounded by a lot of jams, a lot of group gathering activities. So I think that the synergy of everyone coming together and kind of showing their own line or vein of expression is what creates that, especially through jam sessions. You know, a jam session can hear some of the best singers in the world.
Right.
And
I think the common practice of coming together and having a common repertoire and being able to sing, perform, and play together in general is unique to jazz. To have that common basic knowledge that everyone can come together and play. I don't know if that's unique specifically to New York though. New York just has the most of it.
Growing up, I always had this thought in my mind. I always saw New Orleans as the jazz capital. And while yes, there is quite a bit of jazz down there, it's a lot for tourists nowadays. And in all reality, New York is where you go for jazz. It is by far probably the place with the most jazz musicians and jazz clubs and people jazz, and there's really nowhere else like it. And the history of the clubs in this city is just phenomenal, and the fact that in a day and age that's so prone to modernization and gentrification, having such an old school art form have so many places dedicated to that in the city, with new ones opening all the time, is kind of remarkable.
According to you, which is the best place to hear jazz in New York City?
I would say at least one of the best would be Sour Mouse, for several reasons. Number one, because it's free. You are not going to find a lot of free jazz. And I don't mean the genre free jazz, because if you know, that is a genre of jazz. I mean, it doesn't cost anything to go and see it, which I think is amazing. A lot of the bigger venues have pretty extravagant ticket costs, and even the smaller venues will have covers, and it can be really inaccessible. And Sour Mouse really is dedicated to being an accessible place to see and hear jazz. Also because of the fact that they have jazz offerings during the day, whereas most jazz clubs, you're not going to hear anything really exciting until after 10 o'clock at night, and sometimes even later. And especially as a musician, if you have a day job, if you're a musician with a day job, it's not the most practical to be going to these midnight jams, but that's when they're all happening. But Sour Mouse is, I think, a unicorn in that respect, that it really does have something for everyone.
Les feuilles mortes, c'est une chanson. Toi qui m'aimais, moi qui t'aimais, nous vivions tous doucement. Les feuilles mortes, ils nous ressemblent from the top. 1, 2, 3, the autumn leaves by my window. The autumn leaves of red and gold. I see your lips, the summer kiss.
Well, it started at a small cafe a few blocks away from here for Sour Mouse. I got friendly with the owner, and I thought it would be a good place to do just a jazz jam. And I asked him if we could do it. And I had Johnny look at it. I said, Johnny, is this a good place? And we did it there for a couple of months. And then the owner said, I don't think it's working here. We were like, I was heartbroken, but I was like, okay. I stayed friendly with him. Luckily, because 2 years later, he called me and said, hey, Kat, I love what you and Johnny were doing. I have a new club, Sour Mouse, and I want you to do it here. I was like, it was in the middle of the pandemic, and we were like, I don't know, well, let's just check out the place. And of course, with the art, my two loves are art and music. So with the art and the music, the look of the place, the size of the place, I thought, we were like, yes, let's do it. And that's how it started. It started in a small cafe. We were rejected after a couple months, so I thought he didn't like us. And luckily, I kept the same number because he called me 2 years later, and here we are. It's been 4 years at Sour Mouse, and we expanded to the new location. So we have 2 locations.
Yay! So jazz is known to have a very niche audience. Why, out of all the venues, did you choose a game room / bar?
I didn't choose it, it chose us because we
okay.
got the call to come here, and our mission is to expose jazz to the younger generation. So this is the perfect environment, a game room where we have all ages. So we have our crew coming, middle aged and older that love jazz. And then we have the kids that are learning jazz. We have so many schools in the area, music schools in the area. So we're attracting students and we're exposing it to the younger generation. So mission accomplished. Being in a game room, it couldn't have anything better. And couldn't have hoped for better.
Where is the best place to experience a jazz and blues jam in New York City? Is it Minton?
At one time, it was meant.
We're here every week on every Wednesday at 9 p.m. We're here every Wednesday, 9 p.m. And we are here as an open jam. Every week we feature a house band, we feature a singer, we feature a poet, we feature someone from the community that comes forward and brings us a vibe. us would be called Cuban Activity. And we please encourage you to take videos, take photos, tag us on Instagram. I'll take you on Instagram, you'll see on our story. We're the band, the video. And that is a great way to just put a little note and we thank you to all the people here on stage who like the music tonight. And tonight's also our stoplight party, so if you're single, we hope you're in green, if you're in yellow, it's complicated. If you're in red, we don't want anybody coming here mad, okay? So make sure to let somebody know you're red if you're not wearing it. Just so you guys can know what it is all is red tonight. So keyboard and piano is red. Ah, there we go. But everybody else, ready for the fall. So this first song is called Cuban. Cause you can't get your mind away from the things that you hear from your friends. Well, I don't give a damn cause they don't understand the things that we should know. They don't even know me, all they know what's best for you. The thing that keeps you on your feet. Girl, that's why it's good to me that I'm there for you. Baby, go there for me. While we're trying to get that paper, it's a struggle just for us to get by. But if we stick together, baby, we can just make it all right.
You know, Minton's, I'd say, is one of the more modern sounding jams. Harlem in itself is the place where you
get to see a lot of different versions of the genre, and you kind of get to see a more modern version of jazz, like through jazz funk or R&B. And Minton's, I'd say, is the epicenter of it. Every Wednesday, whenever I go, I get to hear a totally different version of classic that I have heard, like Georgia on My Mind, or even more like recent songs like Lovely Day. And even like some of the artists that I've heard at Minton's, be it Alex, be it Ilana, be it Mariah Little, I feel like these are people who have really taken the ability of reintroducing jazz to a much wider audience and kind of gaining more and more appreciation towards it, despite the fact that jazz and blues are often considered to have a very restricted or very niche audience. But if you want to hear, I'd say if you want to hear more of a modern sound of what jazz funk, what R&B pop can truly do, I'd say go to check that one.
What I gotta do to prove you I'm yours one more time.
Well, when you look around different areas in New York City, each of them have a very different sound in terms of jazz music. But if you want something which is like slightly old-fashioned yet something modern in that way, I'd say go to Smalls. Malls, I feel, has that very old-fashioned aesthetic, but you always get to hear something new there. The amount of original compositions that I've heard, and even with their jam sessions, you get to do a very modern take on some old classics like Fly Me to the Moon or At Last. And that's the crazy thing. It's like different places in New York City, when you have like it's so, I feel like different places across New York City, it represents a different scale in terms of how modern the sound of jazz is like. And I feel Smalls sort of lies in between. It's kind of like that transitionary piece from something old-fashioned to something new, or something like more modern, which a pop artist might listen to. I guess one of the problems you can say with the jam at Smalls is that it's not necessarily vocalist friendly, if that makes sense. Because a lot of the jam sessions, like at least 90% of the jam session at Smalls, you will hear a lot of instrumentals, a lot of like original instrumental pieces. Barely you will find like in a jam session where there are probably 50 instrumentalists, be it horn players, be it drummers, be it bass players, be it pianists. You'll find like there'll be 1 to 5 vocalists, and that can be a little alarming, because voice in itself is also an instrument, and the fact that not necessarily these places allow vocalists to kind of thrive, it is a little upsetting. I'm not gonna lie, it is a little upsetting when instrumentalists sort of get the preference, when this is the place where you've literally seen where you literally have records of Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Sinatra, and Sarah Vaughan being recorded. And yet, it's like, yeah, I think I'm going to go for an instrumental or two first and maybe then call on you. And that is like very discouraging for a vocalist. As a jazz musician yourself, in New York City,
What do you think is one of the biggest challenges that a jazz musician has to face today? Or more specifically in New York City?
Well, for one, putting food on the table. That's going to be a big one. New York does not have an insignificant cost of living. And as a jazz musician, you're not really making a lot of money in that unless you're pretty big. And even so, even then, still probably not exclusively that unless you're a studio musician or recording musician. Beyond that, I would say, as a woman in jazz spaces, there is certainly a boys' club energy that prevails, especially as a female vocalist. There's not necessarily a stigma, but kind of a looking down on women and vocalists as like second-class jazz musicians, and an assumption that we don't know what we're doing, or that we're not real musicians in the same way because we don't play an instrument, and kind of an othering that happens. And I think that as a woman and as a woman vocalist, those are probably two pretty significant roles. It's probably similar as a woman musician, but I have seen that that barrier can be broken a little bit easier if you're holding something or touching something when you play, rather than just creating the sound yourself.
First, money is part of it, and the space. A lot of, but there's a renaissance going on where like every restaurant, every hole in the wall has a trio. So that's good for us, but the key is pulling in an audience. So marketing is the challenge. You know, if you're in a club that already has its own audience, that's great. But for us, marketing is the key.
Yeah,
Online marketing.
absolutely, yeah.
I think it's like hard to get gigs and just make a living. It's a very expensive city in which to live. Unfortunately, I do not rely upon music to make money, because if I did that, I would have no money. Yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge. I mean, there's lots of like socializing and working you have to do it too, and just like be out all the time. There's no consistency or security. And you have to be like really good too. It's just hard. You gotta practice a lot.
Yes, jazz is very niche. Jazz is very restricted. And as such, because of the fact that there is very limited places where you can actually hear jazz music, there are not many listeners. And when you don't have that much listeners, you're like, the quality of the already existing jams can also sort of be affected. The morale of artists sort of gets affected. But does that mean the show's over? No, absolutely not. As long as New York City is there, jazz is going to be there.
Just don't be in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have more.
Well,